My parents took my credit card to fund my sister's baby shower, so I called the bank, pressed charges, and let them pay every penny with shame. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and if you looked at my family from the outside, you'd think we were close, one of those smiling, Sunday diner, family group chat kind of families. My mom posts everything online, every birthday, every holiday, every perfect family photo with captions like "family is everything." But behind those smiles, there's a hierarchy. At the top is my sister, Emily, the golden child. And me? I'm the family's safety net. Their reliable backup plan. The responsible one who never says no. Ever since I got my first job, my parents treated me less like a son and more like a walking credit card. "You're so mature," Mom would say. "Not like your sister. She's sensitive." Sensitive apparently meant irresponsible. When Emily overspent, I covered her rent. When Dad's car broke down, I paid for repairs. When Mom forgot a bill, I fixed it. I told myself I was helping because that's what good sons do. Because maybe if I kept giving, they'd see me as more than just useful. Still, it stung watching Emily get praised for things I was expected to do. She'd buy a candle for Mom and get called so thoughtful. I'd pay for groceries and get a "thanks, sweetie." No emotion, no gratitude, just expectation. But I never complained. I kept my head down, told myself that loyalty would be noticed someday. I used to look at our family pictures and feel proud. Now, looking back, I realized those smiles were the first layer of a lie, one I desperately wanted to believe. Because the truth, love in my family wasn't given freely. It was earned, and I'd been paying for it my whole life. I just didn't know the biggest bill was still coming. When Emily announced she was pregnant, my mom cried like it was the second coming. Dad opened a bottle of wine, and within minutes the kitchen turned into a planning committee. "We have to throw her the most beautiful baby shower," Mom said, already scrolling through Pinterest boards. I smiled, genuinely happy for Emily at first. She deserved to celebrate. But then Mom looked at me and said, "Everyone should pitch in." "Of course," I nodded, already expecting it. "Sure, I can help. Maybe a few hundred for decorations or food?" Her smile faltered. "A few hundred? Honey, this is your only sister's baby shower. Don't be so practical." The word "practical" dripped like an insult. I laughed it off, trying not to take it personally, but something in her tone stuck with me. The next few days were a blur of group texts, venue photos, catering options, custom balloon arches. It looked more like a wedding than a baby shower. Emily sent me links to $1,000 theme packages, followed by a winking emoji, and "you can handle this, right?" I brushed it off, telling myself it was just enthusiasm. That weekend, my parents stopped by my apartment just to catch up. Mom said they'd run out of gas on the way and asked, "Mind if I grab your card for a quick refill?" "We'll return it tomorrow." Sounded harmless. We'd done that before. I didn't think twice, but that night as I watched TV, something gnawed at me. I couldn't explain it, just a small, cold feeling in my chest. Like the air before a thunderstorm, quiet but charged. I told myself I was overthinking, that family doesn't cross lines like that, but deep down, I think I already knew this wasn't going to end with a tank of gas. A few days later, I was sitting at my desk during lunch when a notification popped up on my phone. Large transaction alert. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I opened my banking app, expecting maybe a small charge from groceries or gas, but my stomach dropped. There it was, $2,137.45 gone. Not just one charge, but several. One for a catering service, another for a party supply company, and one for a local event hall deposit. Each name looked painfully familiar. The same stores Mom had gushed about when she was planning Emily's shower. My hands started shaking as I scrolled through the list. It wasn't an accident. It was planned, coordinated, deliberate. I called Mom immediately. She answered cheerfully, "Hey, sweetheart. Did you see the invitations? Aren't they adorable?" "Mom," I cut her off, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did you use my card for Emily's shower?" There was a pause, then a sigh, like I was the one being difficult. "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's for family. You'll get it back after the party." "Get it back?" I repeated. You took $2,000 without asking. Before she could reply, I heard Dad in the background. What's he whining about now? Mom covered the receiver, but not well enough. He's upset about the card thing. Dad's voice boomed through, ungrateful. Always counting pennies. We raised him better than this. I stood there frozen, the phone hot in my hand. They didn't even sound guilty, just annoyed. That's when it hit me. They didn't see it as theft. They saw it as their right, like my success, my paycheck. My savings were all extensions of their love for Emily. In that moment, disbelief turned to something colder. A kind of clarity I'd never felt before. That night, I drove to my parents' house, not to yell, just to talk. I still wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding. Mom was in the kitchen, humming like nothing had happened. Hey, sweetheart, she said, not even looking up from her mixing bowl. You're just in time to taste the cake samples for the shower. I took a breath. Mom, we need to talk about the card. You can't just take money from my account. She frowned as if I'd just insulted her cooking. It's not about the money, honey. You're making it sound so ugly. $2,000 isn't a misunderstanding, I said, my voice tightening. That's rent, bills, savings. Oh my God, she cut in sharply. You're so materialistic. She turned to Dad for backup, and he grunted from the couch. He's obsessed with money. Always has been. I felt my chest tighten. I'm not obsessed with money, I'm obsessed with respect. Before I could say more, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emily. Seriously? You're ruining my pregnancy vibe over a little party? Grow up. My heart sank. I typed and deleted 3 responses before tossing the phone aside. Mom suddenly started to cry. Those practiced. Guilt-drenched tears I'd seen since childhood. I just wanted to make Emily's day special. I thought you'd understand. You've always been so responsible. I knew you could handle it. There it was again, that manipulation disguised as flattery. I stood there feeling like a villain for wanting my own money back. Every sentence I said, they twisted. Every truth became an attack. By the time I left, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was exhausted, emotionally drained. Like they'd sucked the fight right out of me. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a quiet fury started to grow. For the next 2 nights, I barely slept. I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying their words materialistic. Ungrateful, family helps family. Each phrase dug deeper until I started questioning myself. Maybe I was being harsh. Maybe it really was just a misunderstanding. But every time I opened my banking app and saw that negative balance, reality hit me again like a slap. This wasn't love. It was theft wrapped in guilt. By the 3rd morning, I'd had enough. I called my bank and explained everything. The woman on the line was calm, professional. If you didn't authorize these charges, sir, that's fraud, she said. We can freeze the card and start a dispute right now. My throat went dry. Even if it's my parents? There was a pause. Fraud is fraud, she replied gently. No exceptions. When I hung up, my hands were trembling. The idea of pressing charges against my own family made me sick, but so did the thought of letting them walk all over me again. I hesitated for hours, caught between guilt and anger until I opened social media. There it was. My mom had posted photos from the baby shower setup, elegant decorations, catered tables, pastel balloons, the works. The caption read, "So proud of my amazing son for sponsoring his sister's perfect day. Couldn't have done it without you, sweetheart." My jaw dropped. I scrolled through the comments, people praising me, calling me such a generous brother. Emily had even commented, "He really is the best." That was it. The last straw. Not only had they stolen from me, they'd bragged about it, using my silence as permission. I froze the card that night. And for the first time in years, I decided I wasn't going to be there silent, smiling at TM anymore. The next morning, I stared at my phone for nearly an hour before dialing the bank again. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. When the representative picked up, I told her I wanted to dispute every charge tied to my card over the last month. She went quiet for a moment, then said, "We'll need to open a fraud investigation." You'll receive a temporary refund, but if the perpetrators are identified, legal action may follow. My mouth went dry. Legal action, meaning charges. Yes, sir, she said. If it was intentional, they could be held liable for credit card fraud. I hesitated. My stomach twisted. Reporting my own parents felt like the ultimate betrayal. But then I remembered the post, the smug captions, the years of being treated like a tool. This wasn't family anymore. This was exploitation. I understand, I finally said. Do whatever needs to be done. By evening, I got an email confirming that the investigation had begun. I felt a strange mix of guilt and relief, like I'd ripped off a bandage that had been rotting underneath. But that relief didn't last long. Around 8 p.m., my phone started blowing up. 10 missed calls from Mom, 6 from Dad, and 3 from Emily. Then came the messages, Mom, what did you do? Dad, the bank called us. Are you out of your mind? Emily, you're ruining my baby shower over money. I didn't respond. I just watched the notifications pile up, my hands shaking. For once, the fear didn't come from them, it came from what would happen next, because now the roles were reversed. For the first time in my life, they were the ones scrambling to fix something I controlled, and I wasn't planning to make it easy. The next day, I woke up to pounding on my apartment door. I didn't even have to look, I knew it was them. When I opened it, Mom stood there in her floral dress, face red and puffy from crying. Dad loomed behind her, arms crossed, while Emily stood off to the side. One hand dramatically on her baby bump like she was performing for an audience. Mom barged in before I could speak. How could you do this to us? She screamed. The bank called and said, we're being investigated for fraud. Fraud, Jason. I took a deep breath. Because you committed fraud. Her eyes widened, as if I'd slapped her. We are your parents. You think calling the bank on your family is normal? Dad's voice thundered across the room. We gave you everything. Food, shelter, a roof over your head, and this is how you repay us. You stopped giving when I turned 18, I said quietly. Everything after that was me paying your bills, fixing your car, funding your parties. You didn't raise a son. You raised a safety net. Emily scoffed. You're being so dramatic. It was just a party, Jason. You're making it sound like we robbed a bank? I turned to her. $2,000, Emily? You think that's nothing? She looked away, biting her lip. Mom started crying again, collapsing onto the couch. You're destroying the family. Do you know how embarrassing this is? Everyone's talking about it. Good, I said flatly. Maybe they'll finally see who you really are. The room went silent. For the first time, they didn't have a script. They couldn't guilt, twist, or cry their way out of this. And as Mom sobbed into her hands, I realized something. This wasn't just a family argument. It was a reckoning that had been building my entire life. 2 days later, the inevitable happened. A formal letter from the bank arrived at my parents' address. Mom sent me a photo of it, her message all caps. You went too far. The letter confirmed what the representative had warned. Their names were officially under review for credit card fraud. The amount in dispute, $2,137.45, had to be repaid within 30 days or escalated to law enforcement. When I saw her text, I just stared at it for a long time. No panic, just clarity. For once, I wasn't the one cleaning up their mess. That evening, the phone calls started again, this time from relatives. My aunt called first, her voice dripping with judgment. Sweetheart, your mom is devastated. Can't you just drop this? It's family, after all. I'm tired of that word being used as a shield for bad behavior, I said, keeping my tone calm. Then came Uncle Ron. You're humiliating them. Everyone in church knows. Is that what you wanted? Maybe humiliation is what it takes for them to stop stealing, I replied. It was like a chain reaction. Each relative tried their own flavor of guilt, some soft, some harsh, all trying to make me bend. But I didn't. Not this time. Later that night, Mom called again, her voice trembling between fury and desperation. You think you've won? You think this makes you strong? You'll regret this when you're alone. I let the silence hang before answering. I've been alone in this family my whole life, Mom. You just never noticed." Then I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from release. The kind that comes after years of being suffocated. For the first time, I realized standing up for myself wasn't destroying my family. It was freeing me from it. The following week, everything unraveled faster than I expected. The story, or at least a twisted version of it, spread through our small town like wildfire. Someone from the event hall apparently recognized my mom when the bank's inquiry reached them, and gossip took care of the rest. Suddenly, everyone knew that the perfect family who threw a lavish baby shower had done it. With stolen money, I didn't need to say a word. The truth traveled on its own. Mom called me in hysterics. "Do you have any idea what you've done? People are laughing at us." She cried. "You did that yourself," I said quietly. "You were the one who bragged online about me sponsoring the party. All I did was tell the truth." Emily chimed in next, her tone cold and venomous. "My brand deal dropped me because of this. You've ruined everything." "Then maybe next time," I said. "Don't build your image on someone else's money." There was a pause. Then she hung up without a word. The next day, my dad showed up at my apartment. His voice wasn't loud this time. He looked smaller. "Your mom hasn't stopped crying," he muttered. "We're a joke now. Everyone thinks we're criminals." "You are," I said simply. "You stole from me?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in my life, he had nothing to say. That silence, that loss of power, was the moment everything shifted. They left my doorstep defeated.
Ow.
And I didn't chase after them. I didn't apologize. I didn't try to fix it. I just stood there, breathing. For once, they were the ones carrying the shame, and I knew deep down that was a debt they'd never be able to repay. A few weeks later, I got an official email from the bank. The investigation had concluded, and the ruling was clear. Every cent was reversed. The funds were credited back to my account, and my parents were held fully liable for the amount plus additional penalties for misuse and late repayment. They had 30 days to settle, or the case would move forward legally. When I read those words, a strange calm washed over me. It wasn't joy or vengeance, just peace. The kind that comes after years of swallowing guilt and finally spitting it out. But that peace didn't last long. Mom started messaging again, this time switching from anger to pity. "We're drowning in debt because of you. You've destroyed this family over money." Then, the classic line, "You used to be so kind before the world hardened you." I didn't respond. I'd finally learned the difference between kindness and compliance. Then came a final blow from Dad, a voicemail that still echoes in my mind. "You think you're righteous now, but one day you'll need family again. And no one will be there." It was wrong. For the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need them. Word of the bank ruling spread fast. And this time, the sympathy wasn't with them. Friends and coworkers reached out privately, saying they'd seen the posts, heard the gossip, and couldn't believe what my family did. Even a few relatives admitted they were ashamed. For defending my parents earlier, I moved my savings to a new bank the same day, blocked their numbers, changed my locks. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming peace. And for the first time in years, silence felt like freedom instead of punishment. Months passed in quiet. My apartment finally felt like a home instead of a hiding place. I deleted every old photo, every text thread, every reminder of the people who taught me love through guilt. Life moved on, or at least I thought it had. One evening, I was scrolling through social media when Emily's face appeared in my feed. She'd given birth. The caption read, "Our miracle baby is here, surrounded by love and family." The photo showed my parents holding the newborn, beaming like saints. Not a single trace of shame left on their faces, just curated perfection again. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't even mentioned. For a moment, it stung not the exclusion, but the ease with which they erased me. It was like I never existed in their story. But then, something unexpected happened. I felt relief. For once, I wasn't responsible for holding up their image. They could keep their facade. I had my freedom. A few days later, Dad texted me. The first message in months. Dad, you'll regret betraying your family one day. I stared at the words, then typed slowly. Me. Family doesn't steal. I hit send and blocked him. That night, I sat by the window, the city quiet outside, and realized something powerful. I didn't need their apology anymore. I didn't need their validation or their love or even their acknowledgement. What I needed was peace, and I had finally built it myself. It's funny how betrayal strips you down, but also rebuilds you sharper. I wasn't the naive son they could manipulate anymore. I was someone who had learned to protect his own worth even if it meant standing alone. And that, I realized, was the best kind of family I could ever create. It's been almost a year since everything happened. Sometimes I still catch myself wondering how things could have turned out if they'd just asked. If they'd treated me like a son instead of a resource. But that kind of wondering fades quickly now. Because when I look back, I see how every lie, every guilt trip, every manipulation led me here to peace, to clarity, to freedom. I moved to a smaller apartment by the coast. It's quiet, minimal, and mine. No more emergency calls at midnight asking for just a little help. No more silent expectations hanging over every family dinner. I wake up to the sound of waves instead of notifications. I cook my own meals. I pay my own bills. And for the first time in my life, I do it only for me. Sometimes people ask if I regret pressing charges. I don't. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about self-respect. The day I froze that card wasn't the day I turned on my family. It was the day I stopped letting them drain the life out of me. I haven't spoken to them since. Occasionally, I'll hear through mutual friends that Emily's baby is doing fine, or that my parents still complain about how heartless I've become. I just smile, because I finally understand something they never did. Love without respect isn't love, it's control. I write about that sometimes in my journal. How pain can become peace if you let it teach you instead of define you. And if I had to sum it all up in one line, it would be this. They used my credit to buy decorations. I used the truth to decorate their shame. That's how I finally paid my debt to the past, with silence, boundaries, and the peace they could never afford.